What if I told you that back in the day there was a show that exposed the secrets of wealth? Today, we're unlocking the doors to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So sit back, hit play, and let's step into the past, because this trip down memory lane, it's one you don't want to miss. What happens when you're thrown into a world that was never made for you? Will Smith was born and raised in West Philly, the only child of Viola Smith, a hard-working single mother who did everything she could to keep him on the right path. His deadbeat father, Lou Smith, left when he was young, forcing Will to grow up fast. At the age of 21, he became street-smart, sharp-tongued, and quick on his feet, always ready with a joke, always able to talk his way out of trouble. But beneath the laughter was a rebellious and stubborn kid who carried the world on his shoulders, never backing down from what he believed in. Then, everything changed. After one slip-up, his mom shipped him to live with his aunt Vivien Banks, Uncle Philip Banks, and cousins in their Bel-Air mansion. Suddenly, Will was surrounded by privilege, rules, and expectations that didn't match the world he came from. They wanted him to act proper, to respect traditions he didn't understand, and to let go of the streets that raised him. But Will, he wasn't a product of discipline. He was a force of rebellion. What if being the youngest in the family doesn't mean being the weakest? Ashley Banks may have been just 11 years old, but she was no pushover. Tatyana Ali perfectly embodies a girl who was equal parts charm, curiosity, and quiet rebellion. She adored her family but refused to be confined by their expectations. She was growing up in a world where she had everything, yet she still wanted more. More knowledge, more independence, and, most importantly, more control over her own life. Whether it was exploring her passion for music, standing her ground against overprotective family members, or realizing she had a voice worth listening to, Ashley's journey was one of growth and strength. She wasn't just the baby of the family, she was a dreamer, a fighter, and a young girl finding her own way in a world that often underestimated her. In the end, Ashley showed that growing up wasn't just about getting older, it was about knowing who you are and refusing to be anything less. What's the use of a perfect life when you don't even know what to do with it? Parsons was just 23 when she breathed life into Hilary Banks, the oldest daughter of the Banks family. Rich, gorgeous, and always draped in designer labels, Hilary's life was a carefully hand-picked masterpiece of luxury. She was self-absorbed, impulsive, and painfully clueless to the world beyond her own reflection. She never had to struggle, never had to think twice about what she wanted, until the moment life demanded more from her than just looking good. With no survival skills outside of spending money, Hilary had to answer a question she had never considered. Was she anything more than a walking credit card? What's the point of playing by the rules if no one respects the game? Alfonso Ribeiro, who portrayed Carlton Banks, had everything at the age of 18: money, status, and a last name that carried weight. The son of Philip and Vivien Banks, he was raised with discipline, ambition, and the belief that hard work could buy respect. But respect wasn't easy to earn when people only saw a rich kid in designer sweaters. He wasn't charming, he wasn't reckless, and he definitely wasn't cool, at least not in the way the world wanted him to be. Carlton played by the rules, but rules didn't guarantee admiration. Women overlooked him, friends dismissed him, and no matter how hard he tried, he was always stuck between privilege and proving himself. In a world that rewarded rebellion, he was the guy who followed the handbook to the letter and still got laughed at. What does it take to build a life worth respecting? With 45 years of wisdom behind him, James Avery brought to life a man who ruled with structure but loved without limits. Philip Banks was the kind of figure who could silence a room with just a glance, yet his greatest strength wasn't his authority, it was his heart. A towering legal powerhouse, he built a life his family could be proud of, demanding excellence not out of arrogance, but out of an unshakable belief in their potential. He could be fiery, stubborn, and sometimes downright terrifying, but when it mattered most, he showed up. Not just as a provider, but as a father, a mentor, and a man who carried the weight of his past so his children wouldn't have to. Philip wasn't just a success story, he was the reason others could succeed. His legacy wasn't just built in the courtroom, it was built in the lives he shaped. You ever met a woman who could run a household, check you with a single look, and still make you feel like the most loved person in the world? That was Vivien Banks, the fierce, graceful matriarch presented by Daphne Maxwell Reid at 44 years old. She wasn't just a mother, she was the backbone of her family, the quiet storm behind every success, and the unwavering voice of reason when chaos knocked at their door. As a wife, she was a pillar of strength, standing beside her husband with poise and unshakable loyalty. As a mother, she balanced warmth with discipline, guiding her children with love that never coddled but always uplifted. And as an aunt, she embraced Will like one of her own, reminding him, and everyone else, that family isn't just about blood, it's about who stands by you when it matters most. They say every player eventually meets his match, and for Will Smith, that match was Lisa Wilkes. With beauty, intelligence, and a no-nonsense attitude, Lisa wasn't just another girl to impress. She was a woman who set her own terms. Carrying the self-assurance and maturity of someone stepping into adulthood at just 20, Nia Long handled love with a clarity beyond her years. She made it clear from day one, she wouldn't be won over by flashy lines or grand gestures. She wanted realness, respect, and someone who could keep up with her on every level. Lisa challenged Will's immaturity, saw through his bravado, and made him realize that love wasn't just about fun, it was about partnership. For the first time, Will was in a relationship that demanded more than just charm, it required growth. But even when two people are perfect together, love doesn't always follow the perfect script, and sometimes the hardest lesson is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Every kingdom needs a ruler, but what's a castle without the one who truly keeps it running? Jeffrey Butler, played flawlessly by Joseph Marcel at 41 years old, was that unsung hero. He wasn't just a butler, he was a master of patience, sarcasm, and perfectly timed eye rolls. Jeffrey moved through the Banks mansion with effortless grace, enduring their privileged demands while delivering some of the most iconic insults with a straight face. He groaned at Will's laziness, side-eyed Carlton's dramatics, and acted as if Philip's expectations were a personal curse. But beneath all that cynicism was a man who cared deeply. He saw himself as above their antics, but when they needed him, he was already 2 steps ahead, quietly ensuring their world remained intact. With dry wit sharper than a silver platter, and a loyalty he'd never openly admit to, Jeffrey was the true keeper of the Banks household, whether he liked it or not. Some friends come and go, but the real ones show up uninvited, ignore all social cues, and somehow make themselves part of the family anyway. Jazz, played by DJ Jazzy Jeff, at 25 years old, was more than just Will's best friend. He was his ride or die, the ultimate sidekick, and the definition of comic relief. Laid back but street smart, Jazz had a unique sense of style, an even more unique approach to romance, especially with Hilary, and a knack for saying exactly the wrong thing at the wrong time, usually right before Uncle Phil tossed him out of the house. He was loyal, smooth, at least in his own mind, and always up for mischief, bringing a whole new energy whenever he crashed the Banks mansion. With his signature shades, dry wit, and fearless confidence, Jazz was the friend who always had Will's back, even if it meant getting thrown out in the process. Who says the baby of the family can't be the boldest? At just 5 years old, Ross Bagley turned Nikki Banks into a scene stealer, with a big personality and even bigger heart. From the moment he could talk, Nikki was soaking up everything around him. Will's jokes, Carlton's confidence, and Uncle Phil's authority. He was loving, imaginative, and always ready to prove he could keep up with his older siblings. Whether he was cracking jokes, standing his ground, or demanding attention in the most adorable way possible, Nikki was impossible to ignore. He brought a fresh energy to the Banks household, balancing wide-eyed innocence with just enough sass to remind everyone he was his own person. One minute, he was sweet and cuddly, the next, he was asserting himself like he ran the place. He may have been the youngest, but when Nikki spoke, everyone listened. What happens when a woman walks into a room and without raising her voice, everyone knows she's in charge? That was Vivien Banks, portrayed with fire and finesse by Janet Hubert at just 34 years old. She wasn't just a mother, she was a force of nature. Fiercely intelligent, endlessly poised, and unshakably proud, she carried herself like royalty. Because that's exactly how she saw herself and her family. As a wife, she stood as her husband's equal, never shrinking in his shadow. As a mother, she set expectations high and accepted nothing less than excellence. And when Will came into her home, she didn't just offer him shelter, she gave him structure. Whether she was serving wisdom in the softest tone or unleashing a fire that demanded respect, she proved that love and discipline were two sides of the same coin. In a world that often tried to box her in, she reminded everyone that a black woman could be brilliant, bold, and completely unstoppable. They say the past has a way of catching up with you, but what happens when it walks right through the front door? Portrayed by Tyra Banks, Jackie Ames wasn't just another new face in Bel-Air. She was a piece of Will's past that refused to be left behind. At 19, she carried the confidence of someone who had already learned life doesn't wait for you to figure things out. A childhood friend turned past flame, Jackie knew Will before the expensive suits, the luxury mansion, and the smooth-talking appeal. She wasn't impressed by his new world, nor was she afraid to call him out when his ego got the best of him. With the same fiery determination that earned her a basketball scholarship to UCLA, she challenged Will in ways no one else did. But when history and chemistry collide, is it a second chance or just a reminder of why things ended in the first place? They say a mother's love is the foundation upon which a child builds their future, and for Will Smith, that foundation was unbreakable. Viola Smith wasn't just a mother. She was the driving force behind Will's ambition, the voice in his head pushing him forward even when he wanted to take the easy way out. Fiercely independent and unwavering in her values, Vi worked tirelessly to give Will the life he deserved, even if that meant making tough choices, like sending him to Bel-Air. With 40 years of resilience and hard-earned wisdom behind her, she had no patience for excuses and never let Will get away with anything less than his best, making sure he understood that discipline and respect weren't optional, they were essential. But beneath that strong exterior was a heart that beat with unconditional love, pride, and a determination to see Will succeed. She had sacrificed too much, endured too many struggles to let her son take the easy way out. But when you raise a child to be strong, do you ever truly prepare yourself for the moment they no longer need you? The cast of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air became a part of our lives, teaching us about family, love, and staying true to yourself. Years later, where are they now? Some have reinvented themselves, some are still in the spotlight, and others have left behind a legacy that will never fade. Thank you for watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air cast then and now video. Who do you think had the most unexpected journey? Let us know in the comments. If you had fun reminiscing, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay fresh and never forget, home is where the heart is.